He is also a member of the National Judicial Academic Council of the Supreme Court. Internationally, he held key positions such as Chief Counsel at the World Bank and Counsel at the Asian Development Bank, and taught law at Georgetown Law School, Washington, D.C., and the National University of Singapore. Dr. G. Mohan Gopal has contributed significantly to public policy, serving on the body like the Law Commission of India, CB, and the Kerala. He was also the founder chairman of the National Court Management System Committee of the Supreme Court. Elements of Harvard Law School, he holds a doctorate in law, SJD, and an LLM, along with the degree in law and science from Delhi University and Kerala University, with decades of experience across the law, education, and public services. Dr. G. Mohan Gopal is a prominent figure in the national legal and judicial matters. Dr. G. Mohan Gopal is a leading voice against what he calls theocratic judging. He has introduced this terminology. I have heard him on many occasions. Dr. G. Mohan Gopal is a leading voice against what he calls the theocratic judging, through which he argues a nascent theocracy has already emerged in India. He leads several initiatives for the democratization of Hindu social order and for countering religious hatred using, in particular, the axiologies of Dr. Ambedkar and Narayan. Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for attending our meeting.
Now, just to remind you of today's subject topic, constitutional social revolution and the Supreme Court. Now, without wasting no further time, as we are all eager to listen our distinguished chief guest and chief speaker, Dr. G. Mohan Gopal sir, I am most respectfully inviting him come to the mic and deliver his.
Most respected Mr. B.D. Gorkar, Chairman of the B.K. Khaparde Memorial Trust. Most respected Dr. K.S. Chauhan, Senior Advocate of the Supreme Court of India. Most respected Mr. Dhruv, office bearers and leaders of concept gathered here on a Sunday morning to pay tribute to one of the great architects of India, actually Khaparde, who was one of the architects of concept, and through that he has been, I think, has occupied a place in the history of our country in the struggle to build a just and humane society in our country. And it's a great honor and a great privilege for me to be able to deliver some remarks in honor of such a great personality. There will be a detailed tribute to him in the next session, and Mr. Gorkar Sahab has very wisely and correctly asked us to refrain from talking about the great Mr. Khaparde till the afternoon session, on which we will hear from Dr. K.S. Chauhan and others about the great architect of India. And so I will I will not take more time to speak about his enormous contribution, not only in organizing one of the most consequential movements in India, cancer. I think no one can deny that it is one of the most consequential movements, social and political, that India has seen since independence. Since independence, there is no doubt about it. It has changed the face of Indian politics. And I think all of leading this and active members of this program should justly be proud of the contribution and justly take responsibility for continuing that contribution in the years to come. Therefore, one of the founders of this great movement that has made such a big impact on this country, I belong to Kerala, and even in Kerala, the impact of Baba Sahib Ambedkar, Kanshiram, Mr. Khaparde is very enormous in our day-to-day life. And so it is, their work has reached across the country. But this is a very crucial time when we have to reflect on where we stand and take forward the struggle, because we are facing unprecedented resistance and opposition struggle that began with Baba Ambedkar, the constitutional struggle for social justice that began with Dr. Baba Sahib Ambedkar and is now continuing, was taken forward by Kanshiramji and Khaparde and is now being taken forward by all the leaders who are present here. It is a moment to reflect, and I must express my deep privilege that for nearly 20 years now, I've had the opportunity to interact and learn from and be guided by Mr. Bodkar in so many ways, learn from his wisdom, his experiences, knowledge, and leadership. And so to be able to again share some thoughts in the presence of Bodkar and Dr. Chauhan is, I think, a great privilege for me. Because I bring a different perspective. We are all going to the same goal, exactly the same goal. We are all inspired by Baba Sahib Ambedkar. Without him, we would not be here in this room. We are all moving toward the same goal, inspired by the same ideals and same goals. But we have different experiences, and we are trying to reach that same goal in different ways. None of it is inconsistent. None of it is conflicting. And they're all different paths that lead to the same goal. So today I want to spend a little time sharing with you my experience in this struggle, where we are also fighting in Kerala on the ideological, how to understand the current situation and how to respond to the current situation, because we have to accept that we are now not succeeding in pushing back a great threat and a great challenge to social justice and to the Constitution of India, which Baba Sahib Ambedkar left for us as a way forward. So why is it that we are not able to resist this advance? Why is it that those who are opposed to the Constitution are able to mobilize such enormous support from the people that we are part of, the people that should never succumb to these forces and should stand behind the ideology of Baba Sahib Ambedkar and these great giants of social reform? Why are they abandoning? Why are they moving and joining the enemy camp that is trying to destroy this republic and destroy the work of social justice that has been done by Baba Sahib Ambedkar? I think it is our responsibility to reflect on this very, very carefully and come up with an effective strategy to counter the attack against our constitution. This attack is not surprising. In the 8th decade, I often say, in the 8th decade of the American Constitution, they had a civil war. We are in the 8th decade of the Indian Constitution. And therefore, it is a time when in the United States also, 8 decades after the Constitution, there was a big backlash by the vested interests against the Constitution and for democracy, and they had to go to war, to civil war, to protect and save that democracy. Now again, America is witnessing a big attack on social justice right now today. So we also are facing the same challenge of an attack on democracy. So now what we want to discuss today is to understand first of all what is the social revolution, who is fighting it, and what is the role of the Supreme Court in this fight. So when we look at the dawn of independence, there were 3 or 4 main forces that were trying to control the country after the British rule came to an end. As early as in 1930, Dr. Babasaheb Ambedkar predicted that when the British left, India would be ruled by an oligarchy. By an oligarchy. The word Dr. Ambedkar, Babasaheb Ambedkar used was oligarchy. Monarchy is rule of one person. Mono is one. Oligos means few people. So oligarchy is rule of a few people. Few people will rule. Why? Because after the, especially after partition, social at all levels, from national level, in varna, and much before independence, they started to plan on how they will now control the country and how to prevent the country from being ruled by the 90% of the people who are the natural future rulers of this country in a democracy. And that is why Babasaheb told us that this oligarchy is going to rule this country, and Babasaheb said that the way to stop them is to demand representative democracy. But in 75 years, the demand for representative democracy has been suppressed, and the oligarchy has become more powerful than even at independence. Their power is increasing. Every part of the country is ruled, all power is held by just 4 communities. 4 people who belong to 4 communities rule India. And small communities, an oligarchy. And the rest of us are somehow have no place in decision making in this country and have no representation in the most important institutions in this country. Why are we unable to dismantle this oligarchy? What can we do about it? How do we understand the situation? And what is the instrument used by these forces to maintain that oligarchy? So I said the oligarchy brought forward 2 or 3 different approaches to rule India, and one approach was to establish in India a Hindu Rashtra. On August 27, 1947, 2 scheduled caste members of the Constituent Assembly, Mr. Muniswamy Pillai and Mr. Nagappa, very close associates of Babasaheb Ambedkar, they spoke on 27th August, 12 days after independence. And they told the entire Constituent Assembly, which was also the first interim parliament of India, they said to them, sir, the British have left, but there is fear in our minds, they said. There is fear in our minds. What was the fear? They said, the Hindus are coming to power. This is the word they used in the Constituent Assembly on 27th August 1947. It is in the record, you can go and see it. The Hindus are coming to power. Will they bring back Hindu? Will they establish Hindu Rashtra? Will they bring back varna dharma to harass the Harijans? This is exactly what is going on. Raj has already been established by the oligarchy, especially in the last 10 years. Varna dharma is being brought back. And they said to the Constituent Assembly, we want our due share of power. We may be illiterate, we may be dumb, but you must recognize our humanity. And we must have our due share of power. They hinted that if this was not possible, they said those who wanted partition asked for a partition, got a partition. There is no one more entitled to ask for partition than us. And they said, using the English word for Mool Nivasi, they said, we are the indigenous people of this country. We are the Mool Nivasis of this country. They used that phrase. We are the indigenous people of this country. No one has a greater authority to rule this country than us. And if we are not going to get a due share, they were saying, let us partition this country again. But we did not throw the British colonial rulers out so that we will be ruled by the Hindus. So what was coming was clearly foreseen. A group of people called Hindus were coming to power. They were going to bring Hindu Rashtra and they were going to bring Varnashrama Dharma. This is exactly what is happening. Whether you use the name Hindu, Hindutva, Brahmanism, Sanatan Dharma, it is basically Varnashrama Dharma. Different brand names, but the substance is Varnashrama Dharma. Hindu Rashtra is the Raj of Varnashrama Dharma. Varna Tantra, that is what is being brought back. So this has been clearly told to us through these two members by Baba Sahib himself, that this is the oligarchy that will come and rule us. And so how do we understand the nature of this, what this challenge, this Varnashrama Dharma? Varna, Jati, caste, how do we understand? This is the idea that is being used to destroy this constitution. The constitutional idea of social revolution is attacking this Varnashrama Dharma. And we have to understand carefully how it is happening. For that, we have to understand carefully what is Varna. Now, normally we understand Varna and Jati or caste as a system created by religion, by the Hindu religion, based on Rig Veda, Purusha Sukta, created by God, Chaturvarnya Maya Srishtam Guna Karma Vidhagashaha, says Bhagavad Gita. God is claiming that God has created Varnashrama according to Purva Janma Karma Phala. And according to that Purva Janma Karma Phala and our own God-given Guna and Karma, we are put into certain Varnas, and those Varnas are, we are members of those Varnas. This is what we are asked to believe, that this is a religious system. But what is the definition of Varna? What is the definition of Jati? Till this date, there is no clear definition of Varna or Jati by any scholar. But we know how it operates. We know it operates by denying or giving people civil and political and economic rights. The right to read, the right to get education, the right to live in some place, the right to wear dresses of your choice, the right to enter public places. All these are civil, political, education rights. We know that this is a system through which a definition is given as to who is entitled to these rights and who is not entitled to these rights. So on one hand, we are told it's a religious system, but on the other hand, the expression of that system is purely through the form of giving or taking away rights, which are civil, political, and economic in nature. And therefore, as lawyers, I feel we should define the caste system and the Varna system as not a religious system, but as a system by which human beings are given or stripped of civil, political, and economic rights. And that makes the Varna system actually a political system, as Baba Sahib Ambedkar himself said. It makes the Varna system a political system rather than a religious system, a political system with a religious justification, but it is basically a political system. So I argue that this Varna system consists of three basic principles, the Varna system. Number one principle is every human being has rights only according to the group to which they belong. No individual rights. If you belong to a particular group, your rights as an individual will depend upon which group you belong to. The individual is not recognized, no matter who you are. The first question is which group you belong to. That's why even today, day to day, when we meet somebody, they want to find out which group do we belong to. Because they cannot recognize us human beings. That's why Baba Sahib said, recognize my humanity. Recognize me as a human being. Because people, even today, the oligarchy cannot recognize us human beings. They want to know which category are you, which group are you a member of. Then according to that, they will fix what your rights and status are. So the first pillar of this Varna system is to deny the existence of the individual and to ensure that all rights are group rights. You get your rights only by membership in a group, number one. Number two, there are only three principles. Number two principle is that your membership of a group will be determined by your birth. You have no choice. You are born to the father and mother. The group that father and mother belongs to is your group. You can never change it. And the groups can also not mix with each other. Endogamy. That's why Baba Sahib said caste is endogamy. At the heart of caste is endogamy. Second group, pillar. Third pillar is that all the social groups, now human beings all over the world, the societal structure all over the world includes individuals, families, and social groups, because man is a social animal. So all over the world there are social groups. Now the Varnas third pillar is they take the social groups that exist in a society and put it in 5 categories. 1, 2, 3, 4, and if you belong to number 1, if your community is put 100% rights, if you are put in number 95% or 99% rights, you have maybe 80 right. Category. discuss the meaning of some words. And he told me, just a few days ago, he told me that the language is spoken by all of us, our own languages, Malayalam, Tamil, both, which are the same kind of language that monkeys speak to each other. Which means even today in his mind, he looks at the monkeys that go. Famous, he said there is human beings are born through one janma riti. Jati is janma riti. Jati ka matlab hai janma riti. All over the world, from a woman, born from a woman. It's not that some humans are born from a woman, some humans are born by father laying an egg and hatching from the egg. Everybody is born from a woman. Therefore, all humans have only one jati, one janma riti. Jati, he says, is janma riti. Only one janma riti. He says Purusha Sutta is wrong, Rig Veda is wrong, and everyone in the there is know that all human beings have only one jati, one janma riti, except these Brahmanadi. And he says how kashtam, how sad that these people don't even know that all human beings are having only one jati. So these four categories are actually jatis, not varna. Guru says. What is varna then? Varna is the varna. Varna means description. Varnan means description. The description of the powers and responsibilities of these four categories is varna. So Guru teaches us that jati and varna are one, not two. So Purusha Sutta Rig Veda creates what Guru considers a big lie, totally wrong idea that human beings have four different methods of birth and therefore four jatis and four varnas. And outside that, those who exist are inanimate objects. People like us, we are not animals, we are not humans, we are inanimate objects. That is how they treat us. Now, on this basis, this is the jati varna system by which you can rule a society by 3 points. One is deny the existence of individual. Second, make every individual compulsorily a part of the group into which he is born. Don't allow the groups to change. And number 3, categorize the groups into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And whichever category you belong to, that decides whether you have rights. If you are in category 5, you have absolutely no rights. This is a system of government. This is not a religious system. The Varna system is a system of government. Like democracy is a system of government. Demos means common people, Kratos means power. Common people hold power. It's a system of government where power is held by common people. Varnacracy. Democracy is demos, common people holding power. Varnacracy is a system of government where these four varnas hold power and nobody else. It is a system of oligarchy. It is a system of oppression. It is a political system that we are fighting. It is this political system that is called Hindutva, Sanatana Dharma. It is this political system of categorizing people, their social groups into 4 categories and then denying them their rights. This is the political system that is branded as religion and presented to us as Hinduism, which is why Narayana Guru said in 1925, there is no religion called Hinduism, he said in a public statement. On the 11th day after the creation of the RSS, on September 27, 1925, on October 8, 1925, Narayana Guru said in a public interview, there is no such thing as a Hindu religion. Because Hindu, as Baba Sahib also said, is a political idea. It's not a religion. It is a system of government. And the constitutional social revolution is to overthrow this idea. Now, please understand the Varna system 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is a system of unequal citizenship. Unequal citizenship. Category 1 citizen is superior, more superior. Category 2, category 3, category 4. The social groups get power only by categorization. So I'm asking the question in number of meetings and places in Kerala and other places, as a result of which some Parivar handle has asked that I should be beaten to death because I'm asking these questions. I'm asking a simple question. In which Shruti, in which Rig Veda, this whole category system is totally wrong? That there will be 4 categories of people and that the Smriti says they have the power is all completely wrong. Okay, but let us ask a separate question. Where does it say that a Dvivedi or a Trivedi or a Nambudiri or an Iyer or Iyengar belongs to category 1?
Yes.
Where does it say Pulaya Paraya belongs to category 5? In the Shruti, in the Vedas, which is the only authoritative document. The others are written by the Brahmins themselves. They will say there. But in the Shrutis, there is no mention of any community. There is categories, but nobody says this category is Brahmin, this category is category 5. Nobody says. There is no document. So when they say that X community is a Brahmin community, X community is a category 5 community, they really have no religious basis or no basis of any kind to categorize. So it is a complete fraud. But the power comes from categorization. So let us say tomorrow all the Shankaracharyas have a press conference. And they say we have this hypothetical imaginary, will never happen. But imagine all the Shankaracharyas are sitting here and they say we have to inform something, press conference, all the press is sitting here. And they say to inform you something. We have done a lot of careful research for the last 2-3 years. And we have come to the conclusion that we made a mistake. This Nambudiri is not category 1. They are category 5. Imagine what will happen to the Nambudiri community. Their sacred thread, Janeyu, will be thrown off. They will be thrown out of the temple. They will be thrown out of schools and colleges. They will not be allowed to enter anywhere. They may have the same idea, same knowledge, same intelligence or lack of intelligence or whatever, same personality, same biology, same heredity, same culture. But they will be told you have to do scavenging. You cannot do any other work. You are category 5. You cannot enter this place. You cannot live in this area. You have to change your whole. They will be thrown out of their residence. They will be made to live in another basti. What will happen to that community in 1 year or 2 years if that category is changed? So the power and powerlessness comes from this categorization. And the categorization, categories have no validity, categorization has no validity. So a terrible injustice has been done to our ancestors and to us for generations. We have been categorized without any basis. And on that basis of that categorization, we have been stripped of our civil, political, and economic rights. This is the Varna system. This is Varnocracy. This is the Varna Vyavastha that is political system to which we are sought to be returned. How do we know this? Because what is being done in the last many years, and we'll come to that, the second part of my remarks, what is the constitutional social revolution? The constitution gives us rights, but those rights are being denied to us because we are category 5 and we cannot have rights. What little rights we have, including through reservation, are being taken away from us. Why? Because under the Varna system, we cannot have rights. We are category 5. If you are not born in 1, 2, 3, 4, whether you are Muslim or Christian or minority, you are also in category 5. So recently, one young leader of the Shiv Sena, I believe, or BJP coalition in Bombay, he issued a controversial statement and he asked a question: how can minorities be given rights? And behind that, knowingly or unknowingly, he's saying no one other than 1, 2, 3, 4 can have rights. And their belief is that we are not entitled to right. They will give us whatever they please as done, but we cannot have rights. So this is the varna system as a political system of government, and the caste system is the English name of this word. Therefore, what we are saying is, let us accept that those who are out of this caste system, according to them, outcast, we are out of caste, we are not caste. If we are not caste, we are not subcaste. Caste is only for the, even according to their false claim, there are only 4 castes and their subcastes. But there is no subcaste outside that. We are not Hindus, as Narayan Guru said, because Mr. Nagappa and Mr. Muniswami Pillai said in 1947, Hindus are ruling us. That means we are not Hindus. And Hindu is only those who are part of this varna system. No one else is a Hindu. If you accept you are a Hindu, you are accepting varnocracy. You are accepting the rule, categorization, and we are all in category 5. So when you say I am a Hindu, basically you are saying I have no rights. I have no existence as an individual. You are accepting that. And you are accepting 5 categories of citizenship. The Baba Sahib Ambedkar, now we come to the constitutional social revolution. The social revolution is against this system, inhuman system of creating false categories and categorizing people and taking away their rights. Baba Sahib Ambedkar in his constitution destroys this varna system. All 3 pillars are destroyed. Anyone in that constituent assembly realized that he was so completely destroying the caste system, except he and his colleagues. Number 1 pillar is destroyed by Baba Sahib giving every single Indian, every single person, individual rights, which is prohibited by the varna system. Every individual, because you are born as a human being, you have equal rights. Second pillar is destroyed. You may be born into any community, but you have, the constitution gives you freedom of association. You can abandon that community and take on any other identity, join any community that is willing to accept you. You may be born as X community, you can say, I am now Mool Devasi. That is the freedom of association. You cannot do this under the varna system. You cannot create or change community. But Baba Sahib gives the freedom of association, recognizes it explicitly, so that you can change your community at your choice according to your own freedom. So the second pillar is destroyed, that you are compulsorily a member of the community into which you are born. 2 pillars down. Third pillar is down because Baba Sahib Ambedkar de-recognizes this whole categorization system in the constitution. There is no categorization of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There is no privileges. Group rights are not given to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So no one can walk into this room and say, could have happened 76 years ago or before the constitution, cannot walk into this room and say, I'm category 1, you all sit there, I'm going to sit here and you're going to listen to me. No group rights under the constitution for 1, 2, 3, 4. So 1, 2, 3, 4 categories are abolished. Their power and privileges are totally taken away by the constitution. But Baba Sahib gives group rights to those who are in category 5. As SC, as ST, as minorities, as backward classes. Why? Because he wants those communities that did not have recognition as human beings and had neither individual rights nor group rights to regain their full rights as human beings, and for that to have collective rights as members of a group which they did not have under the varna system. So in a sense, Baba Sahib inverts the priority of the varna system. Under the varna system, the people at the top were people who had the highest number of rights. Here, who has the highest number of rights? ST, SC has the highest number of rights. So under the constitution, they are the most protected groups, and then minorities, and then backward classes. So the constitution is a direct attack on the varna system. It demolishes the varna system. And varna jati system, as we learned from Guru and from Dr. Ambedkar, Narayana Guru and from Ambedkar, varna and jati are just the same phenomenon of categorization. They are not two different things. But samudaya, the social groups, they are part of societies everywhere in the world. Their categorization is what is the political system called caste. Caste is a system of categorizing social groups to give and take away rights from groups and people. So that is completely destroyed by Baba Sahib Ambedkar's system. Now, we can see the beginnings of this in 1930. Many people say this constitution was copied and was, it was written by Rao and all that. The best answer against that is that in 1930, Dr. Ambedkar and Mr. Srinivasan, Dr. Ambedkar wrote it, Mr. Srinivasan was the other representative of the depressed classes. They submitted a memorandum to the Roundtable Conference in 1930 in London, setting out a memorandum with 8 demands for the depressed classes. And these demands, number 1 demand was the demand for equal citizenship. And it is very significant because the demand of equal citizenship destroys the varna system, which is a system of unequal citizenship. And therefore, we see that the idea that equal citizenship would be used to destroy varna system of unequal citizenship was put forward as a constitutional principle by Baba Sahib in 1930 and then written into the constitution in detail. And Baba Sahib also in 1930, safeguard number 4 and number 5 were about representative democracy, where he demanded that depressed classes must have equal representation in the legislature, the executive, and the judicial. So you can see how right from 1930, Baba Sahib has identified the issue as an issue of equal citizenship against a system of unequal citizenship. So I would like to submit today one of the 2 main points I want to make is that our struggle today is for equal citizenship. That is our struggle. And what is denying us equal citizenship is the varna system, which is a system, the Hindu system, the varna system, the jati system is a system of unequal citizenship. And we want equal citizenship. And I would like, with your permission, just to permit me, Professor, and just read from Baba Sahib's language in 1930, equal citizenship. He says, the depressed classes cannot consent to subject themselves to majority rule in their present state of hereditary bondsmen. Before majority rule is established, their emancipation from the system of untouchability must be an accomplished fact. It must not be left to the will of the majority. The depressed classes must be made free citizens entitled to all the rights of citizenship in common with other citizens of the state. One is equal citizenship. The second one is free enjoyment of equal rights. You see, with what precision that denies equal citizenship and enjoyment of equal rights. And with that precision, he attacks the And so in 1930, he had identified these issues. And 20 years later, he had the opportunity as chairperson of the drafting committee to write this idea of equal citizenship and free enjoyment of equal rights as the demands that he made in 1930. So the struggle that we are going through now is, the question we have to ask ourselves is, are we entitled to be free and equal citizens of this country? or not. That is our struggle. Citizenship must have an equal share of government, of decision making, of power, of education, of knowledge, of opportunity. The middle word in representation is present. Represent means my presence through someone like me. So the struggle we are having in our constitution, the social revolution that we are demanding, the social revolution that Dr. Ambedkar has put before, is a social revolution and free enjoyment of equal citizenship for everyone, regardless of gender. Attack is against equal citizenship. To go back to a Hindu order, which is nothing more than an order of unequal citizenship. So this is the first part I want to say. Now this has been written into the constitution in many. I will not take time to do those provisions, but we look at we have, broadly speaking, 5 sets of fundamental rights: the right to equality, the right to freedom, equal right to equality, equal right to equality. Not some people have a right to equality and others don't have a right to equality. That is the varna system. If you have 1, 2, 3, 4, you have within 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, you have one right to equality. The right to equality, the right to freedom, right against exploitation, the right to freedom of religion, cultural and education rights. These are the 5 sets of rights that we have in our fundamental rights. And in the directive principles of state policy, we have 12 sets of principles, 4 on social justice, including Article 38, which says that the state should promote the welfare of the people by securing as effectively as it may a social order in which justice, social, economic, and political shall inform all institutions of national life. We have Article 39, which sets out principles of social justice to be followed by the state. We have Article 39A, equal justice, and we have Article 44, Uniform Civil Code, which is a commitment to destroy, annihilate the varna system. That is the purpose of the Uniform Civil Code. Not to attack Muslims, but to annihilate caste. If there is a uniform civil code in this country, the first clause must make the varna system illegal. I say, you can tell me you're a Nambudiri, I am that, Vivedi, I have no problem, you're a social group, there are social groups all over the world, and they all have pluses and minuses, that is formed by yourself. But don't tell me you're a Brahmin. Don't tell me you are a Kshatriya. Don't tell me you are a Vaishya. Don't tell me you are a Shudra. Because these are categories of citizenship. When you tell me I am a Brahmin, you are telling me I am a I have category 1 citizenship. When you tell me you are Nambudiri or Iyer, you are telling me you are social group. Once a Nambudiri is recategorized into group 5 or whatever, there is no power. But we should never allow the use of these different categories of citizenship. These 5 categories, that is caste. That is where they derive their power. If these categories are gone, where is their power? And that's also what enables them to. So any historical basis. So if these categories of varna, which are political categories, 5 categories of citizenship, illegal. And but that is this is why I believe Baba Sahib Ambedkar brought these provisions into the constitution to annihilate caste. Annihilate caste means annihilate varna and along with it jati, but not annihilate samudaya. Because in 1930, Baba Sahib Ambedkar, in his own language, demanded due and adequate representation of all communities, not classes, all communities. That's the word Baba Sahib Ambedkar used. The constitution gives 3 sets of labor rights: just and humane conditions of work and maternity relief, living wages for workers, participation of workers in management of industries. And so we can see written into the constitution a whole agenda of provisions that will ensure equal citizenship and equal enjoyment of equal citizenship by all the people of this country. Now the role of the Supreme Court. Now we have established what is social revolution. Social revolution is a revolution against the Varna system. And the Varna system is a political system of unequal citizenship. And that has to be destroyed because we cannot move forward in this country on the basis of unequal citizenship. I refer to the US Civil War. It started when Abraham Lincoln said, this nation cannot exist half slave and half free. We can now say this nation cannot exist with 1% free people and 99% slaves. This nation cannot exist. And the slavery, system of slavery, is this caste system, varna system, jati system that categorizes social groups and takes away our rights. This is, and to overthrow the system, the constitution has put in a number of provisions, as we have seen, to destroy the pillars. The 3 pillars of this caste system have been destroyed. Individual rights are recognized. Your freedom of choice to join any group you wish. You are not confined to the group into which you were born. And third, there is no system of unequal citizenship and categorization. So the varna system is destroyed. Now we look at how, in the second and last part, how does the Supreme Court react to this social revolution? The Supreme Court says that they want a casteless society, that they are a neutral arbiter in many judgments, that we have to balance. Justice Khaparde said in a judgment that the Supreme Court must just read out to you the language. The Supreme Court said that the court must maintain a stable equilibrium between justice to the backwards, equity for the forwards, and efficiency for the entire system. Now, equilibrium is a state of stagnation, according to me, in which no change can occur. So when the Supreme Court says we must maintain a stable equilibrium, the Supreme Court is actually saying there cannot be social change. So their role is to prevent social change, is to stop, according to them, maintain an equilibrium, balance between rights. Now this kind of role we find mainly in the Indian Supreme Court jurisprudence and High Court jurisprudence, and not in so much in other countries. That the role of the judge is to balance. In my view, the role of the judge is not to balance, it is to protect the rights. And the challenge is how to protect conflicting rights. And if you cannot protect rights, to say, okay, on what basis can I deny someone the protection of the rights? Because this balancing process is actually a process of denial of the full enjoyment of the rights which Dr. Ambedkar demands. Full enjoyment of equal rights. So in the name of balancing, you are actually denying someone. Now who is being denied? The weak. The weak are being denied. So to deny the full enjoyment of representation, the court is saying equity for the forwards. To deny full representation to those who are underrepresented. So we can see that the overall approach of the court, the Supreme Court, says it's as a neutral arbiter. But that neutral arbiter, according to themselves, is one who has to maintain equilibrium. Equilibrium is a process, is a state of stagnation, stasis, where there is no change. We don't want equilibrium for a document that is intended to bring about not equilibrium, but a revolution. So this is its main approach. Now let us look at 4 or 5 areas where the Supreme Court has actually played a very important role, which is not neutral. Remember, they talk about casteless society, but the Supreme Court, following the value system, the axiology behind the varna system, they make a distinction between varna and jati, which Narayana Guru rejects. Narayana Guru says varna and jati are the same thing. One is the process by which jati is created, and varna is the description. In Kerala we say varnanam, which means description, varnan, description of the rights of the jatis. But they make a distinction between jati and varna, and they do 2 things. One is they start calling the communities of outcasts as castes. Before independence, we were all called outcasts, means out of caste. But suddenly they started calling all of us castes. Then they say that our samudaya, our communities are actually jatis. Castes and jatis. So they equate, they say the word jati means caste and caste means jati. Their own interpretation of vocabulary. And then they say we want a casteless society, which means we want to destroy the identities of all these samudayas. Now, according to the constitution of Baba Saheb Ambedkar, whether you want to keep an identity, destroy it or not is up to us. Nobody can say, Supreme Court should not say, I want all these identities to be destroyed. That's undemocratic. So I may belong to a community and I may say, I'm not comfortable with that community name. I may campaign within my community, let's destroy this community name. Let's all adopt the word Mool Nivasi as our identity. That's up to us. We can decide that. But another community says, no, we want to maintain our community identity. It's up to them. That's what freedom of association means. No one can dictate to you. Now, why is it that they say that we want to destroy the community identity? Because they want to replace that identity with the Hindu identity. Now, what is a community? I argue that a community is basically a system of knowledge, a body of knowledge, inherited over generations from ancestors, the knowledge about values, customs, traditions, the way we behave. Some of it are harmless, but gives us a sense of familiarity. This is the way we make coffee, this is the way we serve, this is the way we talk to each other. And that familiarity gives us a lot of calmness and peaceness and consolation. In fact, a few years ago, some scholars have come up with, in the knowledge economy, they use the word communities of knowledge. But they've come up with a word called wisdom communities. Wisdom communities. Communities where, through knowledge, they develop their own ideas of wisdom. So communities, that is why communities last across generations, because what we pass from one community to the next generation, from one generation to the next generation in a community, is some kind of knowledge, some kind of belief, some kind of practices, some kind of wisdom, which each generation may want to change or abandon or modify or whatever. That's up to us. So a community is a system of knowledge. Now what they're trying to do is destroy all these different ideas of different knowledge systems that constitute different communities and replace the ideology, the mind of everybody with the knowledge of only one community, the Brahminical community. all of these 85% of people who are not in Abrahamic communities, they must have only one knowledge system in their head. That we are Caucasian from the North Pole, that we are all followers of the Vedas, we all worship in one way, we have one set of values. To do that, they have to destroy the existing sense of knowledge that constitute communities. So what is happening is a genocide of communities by destroying their knowledge, to vacate that space, mental space, to be occupied by the Brahminical idea. What is the Brahminical idea? The Brahminical idea is basically the varna system. Why do I say this? Because under the Brahminical idea, they will not even let us be priests in their own temples. They want us to worship there, give money there. But if you go and say, I want to be a priest, they will not let you enter, they will not let you be a priest. If there is a religion in which I cannot be a priest, then I can tell you it's not my religion. It's not my religion. If it was my religion, I should have equal rights. But if I enter a holy place and they say, what is your background? Which community were you born into? This community, which category? Category 5. Okay, you cannot go beyond this point. Then I should understand that the person who says this, it is his religion. It is not my religion. So they want us to destroy our sense of identity, the knowledge that we have inherited from our ancestors, good or bad, which is what makes us a community, replace it with their knowledge, and make us second-class citizens in their community. This is what is going on. This is therefore the central importance of countering this Hindu identity, which is a method of reimposing an unequal system of unequal citizenship on us, as part of which they are attacking our own identity. It's very important to counter this identity with either our own identity or with a common identity such as Murniva's. It becomes very essential to do that. So why we are not able to stop this Hindutva movement is that we are trying to fight them, talking about political and other ideas. We are respecting them as a religion, whereas it's not a religious movement, it's a political movement. And we are not countering that identity through which they are trying to control us with a counter identity, which of course you are doing, but others are not doing. So it is in this background that the Supreme Court is also saying, in judgment after judgment, we want a casteless society, means we want these community identities to be destroyed. At the same time, in many judgments, the Supreme Court is praising the varna system. Even recently in Davinder Singh, in one of the judgments, they are saying that the varna system brings the best out of human beings. They have said it's a laudable system. And they say in this Davinder Singh judgment, the Supreme Court says varna is not caste. So what they are doing is they are trying to attack community identity, but they are trying to protect as jati and caste, and trying to protect the varna system. The varna system is a political system of unequal citizenship. That is what they are protecting. And the heart of the social revolution is to overthrow this political system of unequal citizenship, which is the caste system. Not the samudaya, network of samudayas and social groups which exist all over the world. It's up to us to decide what identity we have. But we cannot accept the political system of unequal citizenship. So that's one thing that the Supreme Court is doing. The second thing the Supreme Court is doing is the Supreme Court, through its decisions, has actually established the Hindu religion in this country along with the executive through the census. And very briefly speaking, we know that in the 1951 census, the first census after independence, systematically, before that it was done partially, but systematically everyone who did not belong to the 6 organized religions were called as, in the religious category they were given was Hindu as a residual category. 1951. It was 2 years before I was born in 1953. So when I was born, my parents never told me I'm a Hindu, but the state through the census classified me, my religion as a Hindu, although I knew nothing about it. In 1954, 3 years later, the Supreme Court had to define what is a religion, to decide what would be protected under the Constitution as a religion, under Article 25, 26. What would be protected? Only religion would be protected. Now, this was in the context where, according to me, 85% of this country are people who do not belong to organized religion. We are people who have our own spiritual sovereignty. Most people go to all temples, whether Shaiva, Vaishnava, whatever they feel like they go to, whereas the Orthodox people will only go to a particular temple in the community that they belong to. But all of us mostly go to any temple. Certainly in Kerala, as I grew up, we have no hesitation in praying in a mosque, in praying in a church, in praying in an altar, which is a tree, or any kind of place that we decide is a sacred place, we worship. We worship in our own way. We decide whether to worship, what to worship, how to worship. And if there is a crisis in the family, and I come back and say, I went to 10 temples, and I went to a mosque and a church, and I went to a tree, and I will be complimented as a good person who has prayed to so many gods so intensely for the welfare of the family. No one will scold me. No one will say you did something wrong. This is what this kind of open religiosity, open spirituality is the religious approach of our country. And when the Supreme Court was asked to define religion in the famous judgment Shirur Mat in 1954, their option was to actually define the religion in a way that will cater to the religiosity of all of 85% of the people who decide themselves what their religious beliefs are and their practices are. Instead, the Supreme Court came up with a definition in Shirur Mat, written by Justice B.K. Mukherjee, that a religion is a set of doctrines and practices decided by members of that religion. And when you accept those doctrines and practices, you become a member of that religion. No, but most of us are people who don't have an accepted set of doctrines. We are coming up with our own doctrines and our own beliefs. So in one stroke, actually in 1954, the Supreme Court de-recognized the religion of 85% of this country and said the Constitution doesn't protect you. First step. Second step the Supreme Court did in 1966 in another judgment called Shastri Yagnapurush, Justice Gajendra Thakkar. They defined, so in this period after this definition, we were classified as Hindus as a religion. So therefore the Supreme Court has said there must be a set of doctrines which you are accepting. That's why you are a Hindu. Whereas we don't accept any doctrines. They did not recognize our real religion, but they categorized as Hindu and said religion must have a doctrine. So therefore implicitly the Supreme Court said that you have accepted some doctrine. So 1966 in Shastri Yagnapurush, the Supreme Court defines who is a Hindu. Justice Gajendra Thakkar. And I'm not going to all the number of parameters were set out, but one or two of them are important. One of them is that a Hindu is one who accepts the Vedas as a supreme authority in all matters religious and philosophical. I was 13 years old then. No one asked me. I didn't know the Vedas. I had not heard of the Vedas living in Kerala. But the Supreme Court decided that I accept the Vedas as my supreme authority in all matters religious and philosophical. The Supreme Court said Hindu is one who looks with reverence at the past. I look with horror at the past, not with reverence at the past. So pagans were classified as Hindus. Hindu was defined and brought under Vedic Hinduism. And in 1998 we saw the Hindutva judgment where the boundaries between religion and nationality were blurred, and said that it's a way of life. Hindu has already been decided as one who accepts the Vedas, but that is a way of life. Hindutva is the way of life of all these people. And in this way, the Supreme Court actually created a platform, a legal platform for the Hindutva movement. And along with the executive branch, actually brought these vast numbers of people who had an open spirituality, spiritual sovereignty. They were brought into within the framework and brought under the subordination of the Vedic Brahminical system. Although we don't still accept it, but that's the position of the Supreme Court. Now, in addition, there's no time to get into it in detail. The Supreme Court has also limited freedom of speech, the right to inquire, of the government. Effectively, our freedom of speech has been eroded very deeply. Practically, it's there on paper, but it's not being implemented. Equality has been eroded. Socialism has been eroded. The idea of socialism comes from Baba Sahib Ambedkar's idea of social revolution. It is not the Marxist idea of socialism. It is Baba Sahib Ambedkar's idea of social revolution that informs the socialism of the constitution. That has been eroded. So by supporting the caste system, the varna system, by establishing all of us as Hindus subject to the Vedic Brahminical order, by qualifying our rights to freedom and equality and right to religion, a series of judgments of the Supreme Court over the last 75 years as an institution across many generations of judges, they have effectively countered the social revolution of the Constitution and weakened it and prevented it from developing to its fruition. The last part is, why did this happen? So I'm basically arguing that the Supreme Court has been a counter-social revolutionary force, which through its work has actually helped to maintain the varna order in society, the oligarchy that rules through the varna system has been maintained, and that's why 75 years down the road, we still have a very strong predominance of a few communities in the higher judiciary, Supreme Court and the High Court, and still lack of representation at all levels, because basically the dream of social revolution to a representative democracy has been frustrated by the way in which these provisions have been interpreted by the Constitution. Now, why did this happen? In conclusion, it happened because the judiciary at the Supreme Court level and High Court level, the constitutional courts, there is no representation. The due and adequate representation of all communities has not happened in these courts. If we had a representative judiciary, then the judiciary would not have, as an institution, the constitutional institution of the judiciary is not against the social revolution. It is the kind of people, as Dr. Ambedkar said, if those who work the constitution are good, the constitution will be good. Those who work the constitution are not good, it will not be good. So the problem is not with the constitution or the judicial institution, it is the fact that those who work the constitution are coming from an oligarchy. So like we had, actually from this very platform, I spoke about a year and a half ago about theocratic judging. Today I would like to talk about oligarchic judging. And oligarchic judging is an approach to judging that maintains the oligarchy and prevents representative democracy. And prevents a transition to representative democracy, where every community has due and adequate presence in the institutions of power. So social revolution has been blocked not only by oligarchic judging, which is judging that draws from religion as its main source for its fundamental norms, but it has also been obstructed by oligarchic judgings, which is judging by courts which are dominated by people from these a handful of communities. Why is that a problem? Because a community is a body of knowledge, wisdom, and experience. So even if I am completely honest, which we all should be, completely honest, completely sincere, Justice Cardoso, a former judge of the US Supreme Court, has said judges are human beings. We always look at issues from our own background. And so if I come from a particular community, the body of knowledge of that community will definitely inform the way in which I understand issues and I decide issues. And in a vast and diverse country like this, if only the knowledge systems of 3 or 4 communities are represented in the court, then the jurisprudence we get is simply reflecting their view of the Constitution, their view of the aims of the Constitution in terms of social change. And that is why they're saying we want equilibrium, we want no change, because the communities from which are predominantly represented according to their knowledge and their values, there should not be change. We should maintain the order as it is. But if you had all the main other systems of knowledge represented on the court, then we would have had a much more diverse court and which represents the country, and some kind of consensus would have emerged which would reflect the country much more accurately than judgments given by people who come from the same knowledge system, same systems of experience, values, knowledge, which is what has happened for the last few years. So therefore, in a sense, our constitution is in trouble, our democracy is in trouble. One of the reasons, not the only reason, but one of the important reasons for our democracy and our constitution being in trouble is that the Supreme Court and the High Courts are not representative of all the communities, their values, their knowledge, and represents only a very small segment of knowledge and understanding of India and its itself. Therefore, the judgments themselves are not democratic and representative of the aspirations, feelings, experiences, and views and ideas and ideologies of vast numbers of communities in this country. So in conclusion, what I'm saying is that there is a very wonderful vision of social revolution in the Constitution, starting from 1930, extraordinarily brilliant, insightful constitutional imagination of social revolution, very precisely targeted to destroy this varna system and move us towards a democracy based on equal citizenship. But that has not materialized, not because of the fault of the Constitution or the fault of the judicial system, but because the court has been in the hands of a small set of communities. And even if they've done this, as I'm sure they have, with utmost sincerity, utmost honesty, and utmost dedication, unfortunately, they cannot rise beyond the knowledge and experience of their own communities. I cannot. No human being can, according to Judge Cardoso. So the only solution is to have a representation of all these different approaches in the Supreme Court, who will then appreciate and support the vision of the Constitution to move from a system of unequal citizenship to a system of equal citizenship through a social revolution. As Baba Sahib said, you an adequate representation of all communities at all levels of the state, judiciary, legislature, executive, because that is the only way in which we can take this revolution forward in a peaceful, non-violent, lawful, constitutional manner. That is what we should be fighting for. And when we ask for representation, let us remember, we are asking for representation of knowledge, of experience, of points of view. Not simply of people or communities, but of knowledge systems and perspectives and values. And all our decisions should be informed by the knowledge systems of all our communities. And that is the cause to which I think Baba Sahib Ambedkar and Mr. Khaparde dedicated their lives. And I think the best way we can honor the Honorable Mr. Khaparde is to dedicate ourselves to fight for equal citizenship, which is free and equally enjoyed by all the people of this country. And I'm sure under the leadership of Gopal Sahab, this organization will continue to take us towards that cherished ideal and dream. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. In his, on this occasion, we have to proceed to discuss one book, informative book on Vamse, that is Vamse ke Anokha Missionary Sangathan. And I would request our dignitaries sitting on the dais to publicize this book. Please, to release this book. We have already published the book. We are releasing it now. New edition. Is well thought, well conceived, and well considered picture. Honorable Dr. G. Mohan Gopal sir has touched very important points which are very dear to us, and he said he has alerted us about the onset of the Hindu Rashtra, for which Baba Sahib was saying, if it comes, then that would be the great danger for this country. And he has referred to Nagappa several times. Baba Sahib Ambedkar was from the very beginning, he was in favor before framing of this constitution, during the framing of this constitution, and after framing of after this constitution is framed. He was very much in favor of separate electorate for us, and perhaps because he has impressed with the speech of the Nagappa, he assigned Mr. Nagappa to raise the demand of separate electorates in Constituent Assembly, and Mr. Nagappa has raised this demand 2 or 3 times. But thereafter, he suddenly stopped. And Mr. Rashekar Hundru, he has written a book. He is a distinguished bureaucrat from our society. He has written a book, Ambedkar, Gandhi and Patel. And in that book, he has dealt with this chapter in very detail. So he alleged that Patel has co-opted Nagappa, and after that he stopped raising this demand. So if this demand, if we got this separate electorate, then I think that could have stand as a great deterrent in this way of Hindu Rashtra. Separate electorate had that potential to stop that onset of a Hindu Rashtra. But Congress has thwarted this attempt of Dr. Ambedkar. And what reward Ragappa got for this? In the very following election, he was defeated by the Congress, and Congress in the subsequent election ensured that he should never enter into the parliament. I don't know why, and this is the reward. Congress or ruling caste people are using our own people against us, and they are rewarded in same manner as Nagappa was rewarded. But I don't know why this representative are doing this. Secondly, sir has said, he has posed a very important question for us. He said, are we really entitled to be free and equal citizens? I think this is very serious question, and we should think very seriously on this question. And I think here, relevance and legacy of Khaparde Sahib. Khaparde Sahib has given this movement of Bhanshe objective, ideology, strategy, and leadership and everything. And that is all aimed at entitling us to be free and equal citizens. So we should go to Khaparde Sahib literature very often. We should go to Khaparde Sahib literature very often, and we should over those thoughts in our mind. And with this, then once again thank Dr. Mohan Gopal sir. And now I would like to invite Tilak Kumar ji for according vote of science. Tilak Kumar.
On behalf of D.K. Khaparde Memorial Trust, on the eve of 25th anniversary of Yashakayi D.K. Khaparde Sahib, the third memorial structure in this auditorium, the Indian Society of International Law, V.K. Krishna Menon Bhavan, New Delhi. I am conveying our sincere thanks to B.D. Borkar sir, Chairman, D.K. Khaparde Memorial Trust, for arranging this session on the subject Constitutional Social Revolution and the Supreme Court. We are conveying our sincere thanks to Dr. K.S. Chauhan ji, Senior Advocate Supreme Court, for his presence. And we are conveying our sincere thanks to Engineer R.L. Dusar, National President, Bhavan sir. And we are conveying our sincere thanks to Pushparaj Dahivaliji, National President, America. And we are conveying our sincere thanks to Dr. G. Mohan Gopal ji, former Director, National Judicial Academy, Gopal, for giving us elaborate and detailed lecture. I cannot say simplify his entire lecture in simple words, but the focus and the direction Dr. Mohan Gopal have given us, that we are asking for representation of knowledge, not for persons. in the apex sports. And Baba Saheb and Khaparde sir dedicated their lives for this social movement. This is the conclusion speech given by Dr. Mohan Baba sir. The representation of 1, 2, 3, 4, a new concept, and the demolition of the varna system and adoption of egalitarian society in the Indian Constitution. It clearly defined and given us a valuable direction to continue the mission of Baba Saheb and Khaparde sir. Thank you, sir, for your valuable and great speech. All the way came from South India, and you are always a guiding force and a and giving us a beautiful direction to the great moment. Thank you for your presence, sir. Give a big, give a big hand to the. Thank you, sir. With this, we are completing the morning session. After lunch, we will conduct the second session. Please come.